It's Thursday, December 22nd. This Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. Also being brought to you by WYDOT. Remember, when there's ice and snow, take it slow. You're going to want to check road reports before venturing out into this bitter cold. Call 511 or go to wyoroad.info. This bitter cold will last through Friday. Then some relief is coming for the weekend. Record cold has already been reported. We'll tell you about one area in particular. But we still have the possibility through today, tonight, into Friday for records to be tied or broken before we start to see the temperature patterns rebound for the weekend into early next week. Now, it's not a rapid warm-up. Sometimes we'll get a really quick warm-up with a big, strong Chinook. Not really going to happen, but we do see the worst of this cold and a break for a lot of you developing this weekend. But we still have to get through really another 24 to 36 hours before that happens. Now, the Pacific is going to be throwing occasional frontal systems. We're going to see in the Northwest and the Western United States more mountain snow off and on over the next couple of weeks, which will be good for you skiers, snowmobilers, and the snowpack. This is not a pattern that necessarily brings a lot of snow to the plains, but will to the mountains. But since it's going to be a Pacific-dominated pattern, not an Arctic one, well, that means we're going to stay in an active pattern, meaning there's going to be some snow chances, especially mountains, but it's not going to be as cold. So this severe cold outbreak won't be followed up by another severe cold outbreak for a week or two. In fact, there's so much Arctic air that's been released, it's going to take a few weeks for that Arctic air to recharge and build up again. Now, ahead of the Arctic wave, yesterday, some more beautiful wave cloud formations. This went out of Wheatland yesterday. Strong winds aloft coming over the mountains, causing these waveforms to form. What a wonderful shot that is. But the temperature drop. Boy, I've got a lot of graphs I could show you that look just like this. Whether it's Montana, whether it's Colorado or Wyoming or Nebraska or South Dakota, North Dakota, it looks just like this. Thanks, Rick, for sending this. A great graph here change to show you what happened in the Evansville-Casper area. The drop in temperature over a 1 hour period. I've got too many locations to list, but it looks like this was the fastest drop in temperature in 1 hour in many locations. Cheyenne is one of them, to where we saw temperatures drop this fast in such a short period of time. Here's one out of Cheyenne, that red line there showing you right about the time that the front hit with that big steep drop in temperature, the big increase in pressure and wind as the front went on through. Then, thanks to everybody that sent photos in of their weather stations and their conditions. You can see temperature there in the upper right, wind chill there towards the middle. Here's one out of Lander with extremely cold temperatures overnight and early this morning. Way up into Montana, where they've really been in the deep freeze all week, but the severe cold really rolling on in. Nobody really, folks, has been spared from this. And in the Arctic air behind the front, we got several photos in of some great sundogs accumulating snow. Another sundog there east of Cheyenne as the Arctic wave came on through. Casper, so far this morning. Now, I'm doing this really early, so there is an opportunity for temperatures in many areas to get colder. So we'll do a summary tomorrow. But this is remarkable because not only did it get to 42 below in Casper overnight, and look at these wind chills, but this appears to be, we'll have to check all the records, but this might be the coldest overnight low temperature in Casper on record, at least going back to when records were kept in Casper, 42 degrees below zero. Fresh snow cover, generally lighter winds, and clearing skies made the perfect recipe. But we're going to get other temperature reports coming in today that will add tomorrow. There's the Arctic wave going now into the upper Midwest with the pipeline of cold is filtering into the region. And then as we've been showing you, this is by 5 o'clock this afternoon. The blue norther going into Texas, the Arctic air expanding into the Midwest and the East, and nothing to stop it. This is by 5 p.m. Friday. The Arctic air is all the way to the Gulf Coast. You can still see it's hanging back along the divide here. So we're still going to be very cold through tomorrow. By Saturday, the Arctic wave is all the way through Florida, into the Midwest and Great Lakes, into the Gulf Coast. Look at these temperature anomalies going deep into the Gulf here, even into Cuba. Wow, that is a wave. That is an Arctic blast. Look at these temperatures in Texas tomorrow morning. These are going to be overnight low temperatures, hard freezing conditions all the way from El Paso to Houston. Look at Florida's temperatures Christmas Eve morning. Sub-freezing temperatures over the Panhandle, and a good portion of central and northern Florida are going to have a freeze. And there's the storm building up, exploding into an intense area of low pressure in the Great Lakes, really focusing in on the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes and the areas adjacent to the Great Lakes, taking it on the chin with blizzard conditions. Parts of northern and central and western Michigan will get 1 to 2 feet of snow with a lot of wind. But a more westerly flow now coming into the western United States. This is the snowfall forecast through Christmas Day. Now, a lot of this snow you're seeing right here is what fell last night and yesterday afternoon. This is all going to be new snow falling right here. You can see how far south the snow is going to go, with the target on the Great Lakes. And airports and travel weather into this area are going to be a real mess tonight, tomorrow, and into the day on Saturday. Now, going into Christmas weekend, we see high pressure trying to build along the west coast. So for California, the desert southwest is high pressure moving on in. This little guy right here coming in on the back side of the flow is going to produce more cold and snow up into Montana, western Dakotas, northern Wyoming. Eastern areas of Wyoming are going to see some snow showers Christmas afternoon and Christmas night. But the severe cold is going to head to the east. Now, by Wednesday, notice a more westerly flow here across the country. What this will do is moderate the severe cold. But these little Pacific waves, there's just a bunch of them coming through the flow. These are going to come through about every other day or two. And this will just bring a constant diet of Pacific energy and moisture into the Pacific Northwest, into northern and central California, the northern Rockies. This is by next weekend. So this is New Year's Eve weekend. You can see more lows swinging through the U.S. So it's going to stay an active pattern. And there's your precipitation forecast over the next 10 days. Notice California, Washington and Oregon, into the Great Basin states, into Utah, down into Arizona, New Mexico, and see these lighter, brighter shaded colors of the heavier precipitation over the major mountain ranges. So this is going to be a skier's dream, really, when you look at the constant, steady diet of moisture heading into the mountains. Not necessarily a lot of snow for the plains, but the high country is going to get some snow, and there it is between now and New Year's weekend. The snow just piles up. This was from an email that came from the Jackson Hole ski area yesterday, with the snow continuing to pile up to really just epic proportions in Wyoming's western mountains, making for some great skiing. Now, we show you this at times, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, and when it's in a negative phase, that's when we go very cold, and you can see how much of a negative phase we're in right now. But the natural response, and this is totally to be expected, is after a major Arctic outbreak like this, Mother Nature is going to try to counterbalance things, and that's what's going to happen. So while we don't necessarily see what I would call technically a big thaw coming, with the Eastern Pacific Oscillation going back into a little bit more of a positive phase here over the next week to 10 days, we should see temperatures not nearly as intensively cold or as bitter cold in Western North America. But notice the Arctic Oscillation and the Eastern Pacific Oscillations are now going to go back into a negative phase as we go a little bit deeper into January. What this means is a natural response to a break in the severe cold, but still an active pattern. The next salvo of a bigger cold up of Arctic air, probably headed towards the middle of January. We'll keep an eye on that for you. Stay warm, stay put if you can. We'll see you tomorrow.